Hello, folks, and welcome to another edition of Hash It Out. Hash It Out's a podcast here at Woodlawn where we like to discuss the implications and applications of the most recent sermon that was preached. My name is Justin Moorhead. I'm here as always with my good buddy Mitchell Nary Barry Evans, a little inside there. This week, the passage we're going to talk about is Nehemiah chapter 2, verses 1 through 8. So Nehemiah is what we're working through right now as a church. If you haven't listened to the sermon, if you weren't able to be here yesterday, we've made it available for you through the link on the description of this video. So please go watch the sermon, and that'll make what we're about to talk about make a whole lot more sense. But as we get into Nehemiah chapter 2, that's something I want to start out with, Mitch, is the end of chapter 1, Nehemiah has this epiphany that we've talked about on Sunday mornings, that he's a cupbearer. So he's got this burden, he's about to put that burden into action, and a lot of this has to do with the fact that he's a cupbearer. What in the world is a cupbearer?
Yeah, I think we probably all could guess like the low-level responsibilities he's going to test the wine in particular before the king gets it, to see if anybody might poison him, which makes sense with Artaxerxes. His dad, Xerxes, was killed by somebody really close to him in his bedroom, and so memory serves. So he was killed in this way that there was kind of an inside job. So Artaxerxes, his son, is king. He wants a cupbearer, quite literally to test the wine that he's about to drink. But the key thing is the cupbearer is somebody you really trust. So you would imagine that you could have somebody who's a cupbearer and does so in a way that still ends up with you being poisoned, right? They fake it, they do whatever else, right? So the idea being this is more like a chief executive to a president. It's somebody who's going to be within the administration, very well trusted, and I literally am trusting them with my life. And so then they're also going to be have this insider position for counsel and other things. So that's the nature of cupbearer, is somebody who's in the cabinet, as we might say with presidents. They're in the presidential cabinet, and they're this very trusted advisor.
So it's not like this expendable, if somebody gets poisoned, it's you and you're kind of meaningless. It's more like really trusted, somebody who's going to be involved in more than just this wine tasting. They're going to have a lot more impact on things.
A much more official role.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we see that even in the book of Daniel. This wine taster is in the cell with Daniel. He gets re-promoted. So it was really like a high-level position that you might anticipate. So that idea, anyways, is that I'm second guessing the Daniel story, but nonetheless, that idea is that these people would attain a high position.
But Daniel was in a high position.
Yes.
Daniel was coming alongside kings, interpreting dreams and things like that. But got to a position where he was satraps, prefects. He's in this high-ranking government position. And this would have been, where does Daniel and Nehemiah, where do they fit chronologically? Like at the same era?
Yeah, that's great. Yes, in essence. So Daniel's time, again, we're going to have memory. It's a great question. Precedes Nehemiah just by a touch.
Right.
At the same time, they're contemporary. So that it is an era in which the people of God have gone to Babylon they've been forced into Babylon, which then gets taken over by Persia. And so they're both in this foreign land, serving under foreign kings, longing to come back. And of course, Nehemiah does come back. Daniel concludes his time from the recordings we have in Scripture in the foreign land.
Right.
But I think that's a key piece. It's people who are longing to go back home.
Yes.
Living in a foreign land, but they have risen to this place of notoriety.
How does that, because that seems odd to think the people that have been deported, right? These people who've been forcibly removed from their country, brought into this foreign land, they're not one of us, but they rise to these positions of power. What do we make of that? Is it really just that odd? Is God doing anything in particular with that?
I think God is working in it. Esther's a good example where God even just exclusively attribute it to God caused her to rise to power. But in the Esther story, Mordecai is also in that kind of upper echelon of influence.
Yeah.
And I would say he's much more like Daniel, Nehemiah, and these others, all in the same time period, all rising to this high level of power. So on the one hand, you might say these Jewish, these Israelis are in this foreign land and they're rising to power, and so that's just God's influence. Other people would make a conspiracy out of it.
Right.
How do they get all the good jobs? At the same time, Ezra, I think, is really helpful. So Ezra chapter 1 cites Jeremiah, and he says, we know we are living out Jeremiah's prophecy. He prophesied we'd be in this foreign land for 70 years. That's what we've seen happening. So I think they see these guys, lady as well, but these three men in particular, see Jeremiah as guiding this time. So Jeremiah 29:11, I think, is helpful because it gives people who are stuck in a foreign land hope that God has a purpose for them, that he hasn't forgotten them,
right,
and he knows the plans that he has for them. We often cite Jeremiah 29:11 in like a business context or something, but really they're at a really low moment, having to be reminded that the low moments is not all there is, or all that God has planned for them. However, Jeremiah 29:7 is instructive on how they should live in that foreign land in that low moment. And I think it gives some insight to what you're talking about. Jeremiah 29:7, but seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord on its behalf, for in its welfare you will find your welfare. So I think what we're seeing is Jeremiah guides them. He's saying, when you get to this foreign land, do what is in the best interest, not just of yourselves, but even of all the people around you. So that would make total sense for why we see these people keep cropping up in really high-level positions. They're genuinely seeking the welfare of their community. They're really trying to live this out. And so God does allow them, through the means he prescribes, to be elevated to a position of influence.
So understanding that right, Daniel, Ezra, Nehemiah, these are all people who are very familiar with what Jeremiah has said about exile and about these sorts of things. They are really trying to be faithful to their Bible, trying to say, I want to live out the Bible. And Jeremiah said that I need to be seeking the good of this city. So that's really how they've approached this whole thing. Is that?
Yes, I think that's very much what we see. You even see it in the story with Esther and Mordecai. So Mordecai, there's a plot to kill the king.
Right.
He informs the king about the plot. And so this plot would mirror what we see Nehemiah trying to prevent. Those closest to the king were going to do him in. It was going to be a coup. And so I do think that sort of thing is what we see. So they're worried for those around them. You might say, man, this foreign king is the reason we're stuck here.
Yeah.
Instead, he divulges a plot for the foreign king to be killed because he seems to very genuinely be seeking the welfare of the community. Daniel very much seeks the welfare of the nation. Here are good ways for things to be lived out for multiple people outside of just as kind of Jewish, or you might say in our context, Christian circles.
Right.
Yeah, so I think it is, here's why I think it's helpful to note that. 1 Peter says, as Christians, we are also in this kind of exile.
Sure.
That one day we will go home to be with God. We'll go. So heaven is our home.
Right.
Right now we're in a world that is not our home.
Right.
So I think Jeremiah 29:11 should give us hope. God has not forgotten us in this world. This world is not all there is. Jeremiah 29:7 tells us how to live here. Seek the welfare of the place where you are.
Right.
Christian or not, seek the welfare of the place. So I think the implication of that would be you would anticipate Christians get called really good employees.
Yeah.
If they're really living this out, you would anticipate that Christian's going to get promoted. Right? They're not power hungry, so they don't get the top dog spot like we see with all these instances in the Old Testament. But they are very much appreciated because they're seeking the welfare of the area where they live.
So as a Christian, if you say, okay, I want to follow after these Old Testament examples of people who understood what it means to honor God in exile. So I'm a Christian in exile. on this side of eternity. I want to honor God here. So I'm going to seek the welfare of my city, or my region. So say wherever you work, does that mean when you go to work you're trying to do explicitly God-honoring things, like in terms of sharing the gospel, talking about your faith? Or is it literally saying, I work for an accounting firm and I want to do as good for the sake of this firm as I can? Mm-hmm. Or how do we balance that?
Make sure I'm saying it right.
Right.
You work at an accounting firm.
Right.
You could show up and be a preacher.
Right. Sure.
Put John 3:16 in like the signature line of all your emails, something of this nature. I think that is fine to do.
Sure.
That there would be a time when you should do that. Mm-hmm. That should be foremost. You're sitting at coffee and you share the gospel. At the same time, that's not really what this passage is speaking to. This passage is saying you also make the best accounting decisions for the customer base and for your firm.
Right.
And I'm trying to seek the welfare of my accounting firm.
So truly, the firm itself, I want to see them do good.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
In its own merit, for its own merit, yeah.
Precisely, yep. Even, I would say, down to Christians run for political office, not because if all the Christians take over, we can make this, it could be this Christian nationalism thing, but to say, I want to run for political office because I think I have an eye for how this office could serve this community really well. Mm-hmm. So I want to run for political office. I'm also going to be evangelistic.
Yeah.
In the midst of it.
Do you think that those things are typically are going to agree with each other? So truly seeking the good of this firm on its own terms is always going to be the Christian thing in its own terms. Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
Yeah. Would you say, I think, are you saying a Christian would never work subversively to the interest of the firm?
So you're not trying to, you're not seeking the good of the firm at the expense of your faithfulness to the Lord.
Right.
Right? So kind of like Daniel. Daniel's not going to abandon his faithfulness to God because of certain things that the government or the authority around him is asking him to do with diet or prayer or whatever. Mm-hmm. He's saying, I'm not going to do those things. But in every way that I can, that it's not going to offend my faith, I'm going to try to do the best interest of the firm, for example.
Yes. I think 1 Peter again is helpful. So chapter 2, he says, obey the emperor. Right. Obey the governor, which got really challenging in COVID, right? Obey the governor. Obey this mask rule, this 6-foot rule. So he says, obey the governor. Then at the same time, he says, but be ready to give reason for the hope that's in you in the following chapters. So I would say what's at play is, in general, you seek the welfare of the firm. Mm-hmm. If there's a spot where following Christ deviates from the firm, then I make a shift there. Mm-hmm. And when somebody says, what are you doing this for? What do you hope to accomplish? This is going to cost you. You're not going to get that promotion or whatever. You be ready to give reason for the hope that's in you. Here's what I hope to accomplish.
Yeah.
So I think that's a helpful corrective. Maybe, for instance, somebody might say, well, the governor can't tell me what to do. And you say, what do you hope to gain by that? Well, I hope to let people know nobody's going to tread on me. Well, it's not really a Christian idea.
Sure.
Yeah. So in general, I seek the welfare of the city, except for where following Christ would cause me to break from that. Mm-hmm. But I break from it for the sake of Jesus and Jesus alone, not for my sake or what I prefer or want to, break the law for some other reason. And people say, what do you hope to accomplish by this? If the answer is not Jesus, then I think you've gone the wrong direction. You're not seeking the welfare of the city.
Yeah. That's good. Well, I think that's very helpful. Hopefully it's been helpful for you all. And we'll be back here again next week as we continue to talk about Nehemiah and its implications and applications for us and for you all. So tune in and join us then next time.